Number 5, this one's great. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and an exclusive monopoly. Now this would be me speaking now, okay? I argue this depression now that America's in is actually worse than the previous one, the Great Depression. It's because of this communist Federal Reserve System. Federal Reserve System was created in 1913. Most people do not know or realize that the United States of America filed bankruptcy to reorganize its debt with other countries. And of course, right alongside that was the Internal Revenue Service. Snuck it right in, But this Federal Reserve System has 12 central banks throughout America. And you've got these national banks all throughout America. They do what they do. And now you've got, Federal Deposit Insurance Act, which followed. And you've got more than 8,000 members of this corrupt, bureaucratic, extremely dangerous Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. A lot of members of this thing, And it's all together, one purse, the federal government. You may have heard about the European Central Bank or other, central banks throughout the world. That's all communist. It's one, all coming together. It's a lack of, private investment. Number 4, confiscation of the property of all immigrants and rebels. I see that the word "all" is in there. You don't have that in America. The communism is not that dominant. It's quite dominant, but not to that extent. So we can kind of go alone a little bit, but truly, got a lot of eminent domain, people just jumping in, want to bring everything together, take away rights. Number 3, abolition of all rights of inheritance. Now look, all rights, okay, the word "all" is, I understand, but it does say all rights of inheritance. Now, of course, you got the IRS, which jumps on you. You're going to get nailed if you try to take out any kind of estate with regard to an inheritance. State will come after you. Federal government, of course, IRS. That's, how that really goes in with common ownership, I don't know. Maybe it's more along the lines of stateless. I do not understand that part of it. Why, he included these two. And the next one, that's why I say these two. And this number 2, of course, is a heavy progressive or graduated income tax. You know where I'm going with this. The federal income tax for individuals is absolutely 100% unconstitutional, as are many other things in this country. But you got this out there in 1913. The IRS was created. It does what it does, but that's what this is referring to. The complete opposite of that, and a good solution to the problem of the IRS. Absolutely urge you to read this book, the Fair Tax book, and hopefully, Lord willing, we'll have the IRS replaced with the Fair Tax very soon. Number 1, abolition of private property and the application of all rent to public purpose. You see what's happening, especially right now in America, with these fraudulent foreclosures all throughout America. You've got these government-sponsored entities, GSEs, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. They securitize these loans. They invest in people through banks. People have loans that they get from these. Ultimately, it's these investors, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and of course you have student loans too. It's a great one, but we're basically lending money to ourselves through the government. That doesn't make sense through the government. That's the problem with this. So it's common, But you get the Federal Housing Administration too. It's all federal. Housing and Urban Development. They have the Fair Housing Administration, which actually insures loans so that banks don't have to take a loss. That's really, you're ultimately renting from the government and actually from yourself. Examples of true rent, people are paying for the rent of stadiums, arenas. There's a few, arenas and stadiums throughout the country I'm familiar with. Google Cleveland Medical Mart. the voters of Cuyahoga County, which is where I live, okay, decided that, you know, their non-represented representatives, county commissioners, could go ahead and increase the taxes, of course without representation, and pay for the rent for this place called the Medical Mart. Just a few years ago, okay, just a few years ago. Of course they don't have it yet, but pay for the rent of this place. And that's supposed to create jobs and all that other garbage. And that goes with, you know, basically number 7, 8, and 9. 8's just more for, I mean, we're making the same wage and everything. But take a look at that though. They're paying for the rent, and we're basically paying it back to the government, and we need to pay this back at some point. Look at the federal debt. So that's basically broken down for you. I also want to include United States Postal Service, USPS. Outrageous. I mean, it's all by itself. Mostly communist, you know. It can be argued that it is kind of totalitarian too, but you know, you're paying outrageous amounts for stamps and just overall postal service. But praise the Lord, I really appreciate you listening and watching. Most importantly, Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. Make sure you get right with Jesus Christ. If you have any questions, please hit me up. Make sure you watch my other videos. I explain the dangers of communism, how America's really waning away from communism, and how we can fully overcome evil with good in this country.